The White House warned the world's top AI developers of their moral and legal responsibilities to ensure the safety of their products. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris meeting with the CEOs of leading tech companies, including Microsoft, Alphabet, and OpenAI on Thursday. Harris warned of the risks of unregulated development of AI products, and the White House later announced plans for $140 million in new AI research. Regulating tech and AI has largely fallen to U.S. agencies, despite growing public calls for more focused action. And here's what Harris said on Thursday. She said the private sector has an ethical, moral, and legal responsibility to ensure the safety and security of their products. And every company must comply with existing laws to protect the American people. Yesha Safan is founder and CEO of the tech consulting firm i8 Ventures. Yesha, welcome back to the show. You heard there Kamala Harris saying that these companies have a moral responsibility around AI. What do you make of this meeting and what's come out of it?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, it's great that they had the meeting. It means it is on the top of mind of the leaders of the world, and this is the US, and this is good. Secondly, just calling them the private companies, and really at the meeting there were only two companies, Google and Microsoft, to say you are in charge and you have moral obligation is nothing. At the end of the day, this is exactly the situation where government needs to roll up their sleeves and actually do the regulation that is needed. So as I usually say, so the visible hand can allow the invisible hand to do its thing.
And you mean by that, you said that Microsoft and Google are really the only two companies there. That's because both the other two ventures are privately owned and heavily invested to by, respectively, each of the two companies. Just to be clear, I want to ask you, to what extent is AI even regulatable? I think many people may have the sense that it's developing at such a rate that it's really hard to get our arms around at all.
First of all, you're correct. It is developing in the fastest pace ever of any technology. We know that in a matter of few weeks, ChatGPT got 100 million users, so that's unbelievable. Second, it's like they released the tension that was out there, and suddenly Google is pushing with Bard and other companies. And beyond these two big players, there are maybe 1,000 other smaller players bringing in all kinds of tools, Hugging Face is one another example. Lots of stuff is happening. To your first question, is it regulatable? The answer is not is it. It should be. It must be, because otherwise we will suffer again from a technology that we as a society do not control, and we let the commercial forces do it by themselves, and they cannot do it by themselves. They have to have an oversight from the above.
Do you think that, you're perhaps not a regulation expert, but do you think that the U.S. has the tools to regulate them in its current setup, or does something special and unique have to be created in the case of dealing with this technology?
So that's a good question. I would say that probably the FCC is a good place, but I think this is a little bit more complicated. Also calls up for a new set of people. And if I can give an advice to the president of the US, then I would say let's set up a unique regulatory agency. And the US has the tradition of setting up these entities, and they're actually quite efficient at building up new markets. So I think definitely I would call up for a new entity that would do the work to regulate all this. In fact, they've actually started to do that last year with the AI Bill of Rights. It's a very interesting document that came out from this office, and that could be a good start to harness the value of AI in the long term.
Is there a framework that the U.S. can look to elsewhere, overseas perhaps, or the EU, for example, is obviously at the forefront of regulating big tech? Or is this so different now with AI that really it's the U.S. that's going to have to do this?
Only the U.S. can do it. You are right. The EU is very good at regulation, but they regulate nothing. The big players are in the U.S., even companies like Meta and maybe IBM. And of course, many of the new startups are US-based. The free flow of information in the US is unique in the innovation. There's like another planet, which is China, but they are their own island, and we will never be able to control that or regulate that, etc. So definitely it's in the US. I would actually encourage the US to invite the other players in the world, the European people, and then perhaps other countries, third world countries, to participate in this. But definitely that's calls for leadership from the US side.
Is there not likely to be growing public demand for regulation as we see how powerful some of these models are? Now, right now, of course, we're talking about these generative language AI models like ChatGPT, this isn't general intelligence, but for a lot of people who are looking at it for the first time, it's quite powerful. Do you think as they see pictures of the Pope in a sports car, for example, they might say these things are actually pretty capable and there might need to be a stronger case for regulation?
Let me scare the audience a little bit more. What you see in the media is 5% of what is really out there. The technology today is unbelievable, mind-boggling, the thing that it can do, not just with text, and not just with pictures, with DNA and with IoT and with any data out there that we have allows us to build in AGI, artificial general intelligence. So obviously it's there. I think the public is not aware of all this, and the people who are into this, and we had recently the letter of 1,000 people who wanted to call for a pause. I don't think that's so realistic, but that means that the people who are aware of it and are interested in this are really scared, and we should all be.
That letter was put out by the Future of Life Institute and signed by a number of experts from a broad range of backgrounds. There was a lot of criticism about it as well, people saying this is essentially AI hype, and that these generative language models, they're engineering achievements. They're not really this kind of general intelligence.
Well, whether you want to call it engineering achievement or general intelligence, this technology is the most interesting technology that came out in the last 100 years. It's bigger than the internet, bigger than mobile phones. It's at the level of printing press and the invention of the wheel. That's to start with. The other side of it is that the speed of innovation here is unbelievable because everything is software. There is no hardware involved. Compare that with, for example, medical development. So every 3 weeks we see a new version, another something that is being developed, and the accomplishments are quite amazing. I wanted to add one more thing, which I think is critical here regarding why we need to regulate. Because in the past, we did not regulate social technology, for example. And that's how we got Cambridge Analytica and the influence on elections all over the world. So obviously, new technologies has the potential for causing damage. That's a fact. So that is why if we have a new technology, especially such a powerful technology, we must put our heads together and build in the relative frameworks to push it in the right direction.
Any advice for people at home watching this who are trying to understand just the scope of AI? Or is it just by playing around with ChatGPT and really seeing what these models can do?
It's not just playing around with ChatGPT. It is actually delving deeper, reading, experimenting. There are over 100 different tools that are using various elements of AI to generate. You can generate movies, you can read stuff, you can be helped by all of this stuff just to get a grip of what is happening. And then internally in your organization, start to get ready for this because it's coming and it's coming fast.
All right, that's Yesha Savan with I8 Ventures. Thank you very much.